When I first got started being a police officer, it was a great learning experience, and it was a huge learning curve from what I already knew. What I already knew was, one, I was already used to being in a uniform because of the military, and two, I knew how to work with people because it's something I had been doing my whole entire life. I knew how to talk to people, I knew how to communicate pretty well. From square one, and we'll just start from the beginning, you go into the academy with the expectation of it's going to be hard work, you're going to work out a lot, you're going to do all these different things, but in the long run, I wish I would have prepared less physically and more mentally and educationally, and I'll kind of gear towards that side as my first mistake. And what I mean by that was I was already in pretty decent shape. I was, running a lot of doing all this. I've been in shape my whole life. That was not a big issue for me, but that's what I do. That's what I geared toward. That's what I did the entire time. But what I wish I would have done is study more. I wish I would have looked up more things that police officers actually do. I wish I would have done more research on things that come along with being a police officer, which I learned later, which is like going to court on your off days, which is, to any law enforcement, it is a huge detriment on your personal life because you gotta go on your Wednesday might be your Saturday, and that's, hey, you got a lot of cases going on. Yeah, that's something that they don't tell you. And on top of that, on top of court, you have to study these different things, and you'll do this in your police academies. You'll go ahead and do this, but I wish I would have gotten the jump start on learning normal procedures, normal day-to-day life, normal, Supreme Court law, normal, everything. If you use 10 codes, ECR codes, if you do all these things, study, because the less you have to think of mentally and draining yourself during the academy, the more you can focus on getting a better night rest, working better as a team. If being physically fit is your weakness, then you can focus more on that. But that was definitely my first mistake, was not studying enough prior and not actually looking more into the role prior to actually joining an academy and becoming a certified police officer. My second biggest mistake, I think, before becoming a police officer or as I was becoming a police officer, was definitely rolling into the job thinking that you're gonna run and gun all day, all night, nothing's gonna go on, and that's your entire day. And what I mean by that is, basically, to sum it up in one thing, is that the more fun you have in a day as a police officer, the more paperwork you have to do. If you get in a car chase or a pursuit, whatever you want to call it, you bet there's going to be about 1 to 4 hours of paperwork depending on what you did and what happened in that whole debacle. And I can tell you from personal experience that if you have a fun call or you do whatever you have to do, and thank goodness if no one gets hurt and everything's good to go, you still have to do whole days of paperwork, write the reports, get names and information, all these things. And yeah, that's you're gonna learn real quick to decide what kind of fun you're gonna have and when, depending on how late the shift it is. Because if you're proactive and you want to go up until the end of shift and work till 12 the next day, good on you. With that being said, I wish I would have learned earlier that policing is a lot of paperwork. Policing is a lot of organizational skills. It's a lot of learning how to organize your tickets, your summonses, people's personal information, all these things, so you're more organized in your life, because it is very easy to become cluttered as a police officer. So I wish I would have invested more time in organizing my different paperwork you need, because you're gonna have 1,000 different pieces of paper and documents that you have to carry day to day. I wish I would have learned kind of how to balance my time doing work and kind of prepping for work, if that makes sense. Prepping being, do I have all my things in a row? Do I know what my court dates are? Do I have all my things for court? The whole 9 yards. And lastly, I would say my third and biggest mistake before and during becoming a police officer is not 100% knowing what I was getting into. A lot of you may know, if you're already law enforcement, that law enforcement is very stressful and it does not pay well. No one really in the right mind becomes a police officer to make a giant salary. Maybe if you live in LA or New York or something, but that was not me. And what I mean by what I was getting into is more what I wish I would have told my family and myself, kind of what really entails into being a police officer. And that comes with asking officers and asking people who are in the profession or have done the profession like myself, what really comes with the job. It comes with a lot of sleepless nights. It comes with a lot of really uncomfortable situations that you constantly think about and you learn how to block out later on. And it comes with a lot of physical and emotional baggage that you got to bring along with you. You know, it comes with body aches from, you know, wrestling people down if you have to. It comes with a lot of heartache from seeing, you know, families being torn apart. And it comes with a lot of spiritual and mental strain, having to be the bad guy and having to be the bearer of bad news as a job. You know, the age-old saying is, you know, the firefighter knocks on your door and they saved your kittens from the tree, and the police officer shows up and he's here to arrest your dad. And that is very true, but it's what we signed up for to do as a job and to, you know, make our living. That's what we chose to do because it's our passion and it's how we wanted to give back to, you know, society and the community. But what I mean by what I was getting into was I underestimated the days I came home and sat in the chair. I would sit there and blank out and not focus on my wife, not focus on my family, not focus on the surrounding world. Sit there, you know, have a beverage, watch some TV, you know. I would ignore sometimes my workouts, I would ignore personal time, you know, pets and family, I would ignore my hobbies. And it's just such an easy loop and constant cycle to get into because you don't really understand that when you block those things out by holding all this stuff in your head is you get stuck there and it's harder to get out once you're already in. So it's a mistake that I highly encourage everybody not to make when they're first getting into this job. When you first become a police officer, your main goal is to learn the job and, you know, to understand things. And if you come from a background where, you know, maybe seeing dead bodies or seeing, you know, people hurt and people injured and people sick and you know, people who are not good people, that's a huge awakening for yourself. You have to realize that that's a day-to-day thing. You don't know what's going to happen in a day. One of my days might be, you know, directing traffic, helping somebody get up from the floor because they fell and they're elderly. The next day after that, I could be working in triple homicide for the entire shift plus 12 hours. And at the end of your day, you're just kind of existing. You don't really know what to do. You don't know where to put your hands. You know, you just sit there kind of trying to mentally debrief yourself, and that's something they don't teach you. It's something you learn over time. One biggest mistake I made was not learning really what this job meant to myself and what it meant to my family and my friends. But the biggest tip I can leave for you before you get into the job of being a police officer is go into it like it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, because it will be. You'll carry this baggage and you'll see things in your head for the remainder of your life. But I can tell you this, if you go into it with a positive mindset and a good support role, it'll be the best decision you've ever made. I'll leave it at that. I hope you have an amazing career if that's what you chose to do or choose to do or are doing right now. It's something that I don't do right now. I took a break, came back, took another break, but it is something that always lives with me, and I will never doubt anybody for trying to join that profession. Being a police officer was the most rewarding and the most stressful thing I've ever done in my entire life. But I highly encourage everybody to either try and be a police officer or at least support your local law enforcement. You guys, stay positive. If you guys have any questions or want more videos like this, go ahead and reach out to me and leave it in the comments below. Make sure you follow. That's the best thing you can possibly do for me. It makes sure that I can bring you guys high quality videos with information that you're actually looking for. So with that being said, I will see you in another video. I will hopefully see you soon. And I hope that this helped you discover what you need to know before you can be a police officer.